Well, thank you very much, Sharon Fox. It's great to be with you again, and Ranking Member McGovern, certainly great to be with you as well, and certainly with all of my colleagues. And as a former member of this committee, it's a great pleasure for me to get the opportunity to come back. I thank you for your warm welcome, and I thank you for the invitation to testify today. I appear before you today on the full year Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act for 2025. Today's measure presents a stark choice for members of this body. Before us are two roads, one that leads to a government shutdown and another better road that keeps the government open and operating. As we move toward a vote on the House floor on this bill, members must ask themselves which road they wish to take. Do they want to vote to keep the government open and operating for their constituents, or do they want to affirmatively vote to shut the government down? This is the choice which faces us today. Over the past year, the Appropriations Committee has worked diligently to complete our work on fiscal year 2025. We initially had a late start due to prior constraints, but that didn't stop us from taking quick action. Our markup process successfully delivered all 12 regular appropriations bills out of committee in a timely fashion. And before the end of the summer, this chamber passed 5 bills across the floor representing nearly 71% of all overall discretionary spending. Since our last funding extension, we've worked diligently to reach a bipartisan and bicameral deal on full year spending bills for FY25. Unfortunately, although we were close on the numbers, the minority has made additional demands on the legitimate exercise of executive authority in the appropriations process. These are demands that the minority would never accept for a Democratic president, nor are they provisions that President Trump would or should ever sign into law. This brings us to today. Despite our best efforts and despite the fact that Republicans never walked away from the negotiating table, we're now out of time. The House must move forward with a year-long continuing resolution. This outcome is not one that I wanted. However painful as it is, it's better than the alternative, which is a government shutdown. Congress has an obligation to our constituents and to the nation to keep the government open and operating. With today's measure, we achieve just that. Today's bill will fund the government through September 30th, the end of fiscal year 2025. It maintains the status quo, providing flat funding for the government and including only legitimate anomalies. We've accomplished these goals while also increasing money for the Department of Defense, fully funding the single largest pay raise for junior enlisted personnel in over 40 years. Importantly, today's bill also does not contain a single poison pill rider. It's a clean CR, fully funding our government. This includes our military and defense needs, support for our veterans, and critical services for our constituents like roads, parks, child care, water projects, infrastructure improvements, scientific research, job training, and countless others. Despite the fear-mongering, there are no changes to the important trifecta of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Quite the opposite. In fact, since this bill prevents a government shutdown. Let me make that point more clear. There are no substantive changes in policy between this bill and the CR that we passed in December. Both are clean CRs that accomplish the overriding goal of keeping the government open, nothing more. For those who supported the December CR, you should have no concern with today's measure. Both December's bill and today's bill maintain the status quo, and both ensure that the government stays open. Voting for today's bill is no different than voting for the CR in December. I believe that those who voted for the CR in December and will now vote against today's bill are succumbing to the temptation of a political temper tantrum. The outcome of the FY 2025 appropriation process is not the one I wanted. But at the end of the day, today's bill achieves what's most important, keeping the government open and operating to the end of the fiscal year. I want to thank each of you for your time, and with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.